Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, in which we're going to release our recent paper here at CAST entitled Animal and Plant Source Proteins as Part of a Human Balanced Diet. I'm Chris Boomsma, CEO here at the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology, or CAST. It's my privilege to start off today's webinar, to introduce you to CAST, and then hand it over to our presenters. So first of all, about CAST. CAST has been around since 1972, provides credible, unbiased, science-based information about food and agriculture to policymakers, the media, the private sector, and the public. Next slide, please. A few facts about us. First of all, we're US-based, but we are an internationally connected organization. We are a nonprofit. We are a membership-based organization of both organizations themselves that are our members and also individuals. Importantly, we work across the animal, food, and plant space. We have work groups focusing on all three of those areas. And so our publications, our webinars, our podcast episodes, and the like span all of the agricultural science and technology space. And very importantly, we're nonpartisan, we're focused on science, and all of our information is provided to our audience free of charge. Next slide, please. Here on the screen right now is our mission and our vision. I just want to highlight that mission: to convene and coordinate networks of experts. Today, you'll be hearing from a couple of those experts who are here to assemble, interpret, and communicate credible, unbiased, science-based information to the audience I already mentioned. Our vision is a world where decision-making is related to agriculture, food, and natural resources, and it's based on credible information developed through reason, science, and consensus building. Now, much of CAST's work is based on the work of volunteers. We have a variety of boards, many active task force members, a lot of experts serving as both authors and reviewers, but also contributors. And we've had nearly 2,000 folks volunteering for CAST since 2008. On the screen at this time, you can see where our volunteers come from nonprofit, governments, companies, and academia. Now, that is a little bit about CAST. And now I want to move on to our presenter. And the individual who's going to be talking today to start off today's presentation is Shengfa Liao, who's Associate Professor in the Department of Animal and Dairy Sciences at Mississippi State University. He is also the Task Force Chair for, again, our publication today, which we're releasing, entitled Animal and Plant Source Proteins as Part of a Balanced Human Diet. For now, I'd like to hand it off to you, Shengfa.
Hello, everybody. As Chris said, my name is Shengfa Liao, and I work in Mississippi State University. And so here, you can see this is my cover screen. So I'm one of the 4 authors. So we already know the title of this paper. So let's just advance So this paper was written in 9 sections. The first section, introduction of the reason why we write this paper. Then the second section, we will talk about the dietary requirement, why humans need protein food. Then we will talk about 3 groups of protein sources. Of course, plant-sourced protein, animal-sourced protein, and some alternative emerging protein source for humans. Then the 6th section is the key for this paper, how to balance the diet with this strategy, complementary protein strategy. So I'm going to present these 6 sections. Then we're going to talk about the global demand, protein demand, where it is abundant, where it is scarce, and then the environmental impact when we produce proteins. Then we have conclusion or final marks. Okay, why we wrote this issue paper? So the purpose is to provide unbiased information for the general public, the people, about various protein sources and how they can choose which protein they can select for their diet. We want to inform the legislator to prevent those policy decisions that could impair the protein supply or protein production. Also want to inform investors for them in a bid on new technologies or new solutions to address the protein deserts. So that's the purpose why we wrote this issue paper. Okay, now let's to the actually introduction for the content, the dietary requirement of amino acid. From the screen, you can see I cross out the protein. So a lot of people may not know, as a human, our body does not require the dietary protein per se. We don't need the protein. We need the amino acids and the nitrogen contained in the protein. The dietary protein from plant protein is plant protein, animal protein, but not a human body protein. They have no use for our body to function. But we need the building block of the protein to build our protein. Okay, we need to understand, to be clear about this concept. There are 20 proteinogenic amino acids. The 20 amino acids are needed for body's life process, for human life process, because the life process is a protein function, right? Protein works in the body. So to build this protein, we have 20 amino acids. 9 of them are essential amino acids and 11 are non-essential. So essential means those amino acids we have to get from the diet, from the food, because our body cannot synthesize them. If you miss even one of the essential protein, then your body will shut down, because you got to have all the 9 essential amino acids. These 11, of course, you can get from the diet, but human can synthesize, animal too, can synthesize them from this amino acid or from other nitrogen contents. So they are non-essential. So those 20 amino acids are listed in table 1 in the paper. So we can see that after the seminar. So here I want to bring up a concept of ideal protein. Ideal protein does not exist, but its ideal means the amino acid, all these 9 amino acid and plus these 11, the amino acid ratios in the dietary protein exactly match our body need. We need 9 essential amino acids, but not in the same amount. We may need more in one amino acid, need relatively less to another. So the ratio is very important. If you miss one amino acid here, you have a lot of other 8 amino acids. So those 8 amino acids will not be used by the body. They are wasted. You cause trouble to the body because the body cannot use them. So the ideal protein is exactly the amino acid ratios in the diet exactly match human requirement. That's ideal situation. Okay, we try to match this ideal protein ratio. That's our goal. Okay, so nationally we have recommended dietary protein allowance by Institute of Medicine. That's for human health. Institute of Medicine. The recommendation allowance is good, but not good enough, because we know the protein, we don't need protein. Okay, we need the amino acid in certain ratios. So you can 1 gram of protein equals another gram of protein, but the amino acid ratio could be totally different. So the nutritional value could be very, very different. So if you say 1 gram protein, so it's not good. It's not good. So the dietary reference intake values for total protein and especially for essential amino acid reference intake are much better. So how much protein is recommended, how much each of essential amino acids recommended are listed in tables 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can see this value from the paper. Okay, now let's move to plant source protein for human diets. So before you choose protein food for your diet, first you need to understand them. You need to know them. Why you choose this? You have some purpose in mind. So for plant source protein, we in this paper we classify them into three categories, three groups. First, cereal grains. Then you have legumes. Then you have nuts and seeds. So the six major ones are wheat, like bread, wheat, corn, rice, barley, sorghum, and oats. These are six major cereal grains humans eat. Okay, but they are low, very low in protein. Not only that, but also the poor essential amino acid profile. So the amino acid ratio does not match far from human ideal protein. Okay, so like lysine, threonine, tryptophan, there's three important essential amino acids, very low in this. Okay, but in some parts of the world, this is the only protein source the human can get. That's in some parts of the world. Okay, not in US, developed country. Within this group, the oats are exception. So oats, protein level not high, but essential amino acid profiles is good. The second group, legumes, commonly called beans or pulses. So the common ones, we have soybeans, we have other beans like kidney beans, other green beans, other beans, chickpeas, other peas. Here is peas and chickpeas, not here. Lentils, this is lentils, and lupins, these lupins. Those are common legumes for human food. They are high in protein content high, and essential amino acid profile fair, not very good, but it's better than these guys. Okay, so limited, I said fair because they are limited in sulfur-containing amino acid and limited in tryptophan in general. So those two amino acid and tryptophan are essential. Our human body must get from the diet, but they don't have much. Within this group, peas and rapeseed are better. If you choose a single protein from this group, this one is better, but not the best. But it's better this group and this in this group. Now let's move to nuts and seeds. So nuts, we have tree nuts and also ground nuts. Tree nuts, probably you can see those from a grocery store, like almond, cashew, pecan, pistachio, walnut here, coconut, and etc. Those are common tree nuts. Ground nuts, peanuts, apples, etc. Not many, but tree nuts, we have more tree nuts. Also, in this group, we have seeds, like oil seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, and here we group them as oil seeds because we can get a vegetable oil, plant oil from these seeds, like rapeseed. The main purpose for rape is for oil. And cotton seeds, we can get oil from cotton seeds, but leftover you have protein. Sesame seeds, flax seeds, etc. So those seeds, after you extract the oil, get the oil, then leftover have higher protein content. Higher protein content and a relatively fair essential amino acid profile. Fair means that limited in lysine. We know lysine is one of the very important essential amino acids. If you eat this with corn, with rice, or lysine will be very deficient. So it's not a good match. Peanuts, cashew, and pistachio relatively amino acid profile is better than others. Within this group, they're better than others, but not the best. That's 3 groups of plant source protein. Now let's move to animal source protein for human diets. So we have also, I classify them into 3 groups, but this meat, poultry, and seafood, all of them are muscle foods. So I put them together because they have similar properties. And then after the next slide, I will show you dairy products and eggs. The 5 most popular meat products, commonly called red meat, are beef, pork, mutton, lamb, and veal. So this beef, this veal, lamb, pork, and mutton. So those, commonly, especially many people like to eat beef and pork. Okay, that's the mammalian muscle food. 2 major poultry meats, chicken and turkey. Thanksgiving is coming. Probably many family will eat turkey. There are poultry meat, also called white meat. Okay, even though they are different color difference, but their nutritional value are very similar. Seafoods, we have a lot of seafood because the ocean is big. We have lots of seafood. We can classify them into 2 groups, fin fish and shellfish. Fin fish, for example, some lean fish, fatty fish, fish oil not bad, it's good. And cartilaginous fish. Okay, that's in this group. They have fin on the fish body. Shellfish, they have shell or mollusks, crustaceans, and like this. And you have cephalopods. So those are shellfish. So all those muscle foods offer highly digestible proteins. Protein contents are not only higher, but easily to be digested with no limiting essential amino acid. Think about it. This muscle is just like a human muscle. Muscle is a large amino acid, large protein pool. When we synthesize, many people want to build a muscle. If you want to build a muscle, you need amino acid. So this amino acid ratio is just like your muscle amino acid ratio. Very, very, very similar. Seafood is, not plant protein is different. This is animal protein. Seafoods offer particularly high level of lysine, methionine, and threonine. So when you eat like bread or those plant cereals, they are very low in lysine. So, but here, high in seafood. Okay, now understand. The second group of animal protein, dairy products. 3 major groups in this big group: milk, cheese, and yogurt. So cheese, we know, cheese is fermented from, processed from, casein. This group has highly digestible protein, again, good protein, with a rich essential amino acid profile, which good essential, relatively good essential amino acid profile. Casein is the main protein for cheese, and this is from the whole milk. Contain more valine, histidine, and phenylalanine, and tyrosine. Those are essential amino acids. Whey protein, after you get cheese, the leftover in the liquid has whey protein, which is high in lysine, methionine, and branched chain amino acid. Those are very important amino acid in many plant food. We don't have those. So that's why plant protein called incomplete protein. Animal protein are called complete protein. Why is that? Because of those. The third group of animal protein is eggs. So the major eggs are chicken eggs. Chicken eggs. So we eat chicken eggs almost every day, but there are a variety of other eggs as well, from very small quail eggs like this one, very small, to the very large ostrich eggs like this, much bigger. This is like a chicken egg. This is duck cheese egg, a little bit bigger. Again, highly bioavailable protein with ideal essential amino acid, especially the white portion, ideal protein, very good protein profile, okay, easily to be digested. So egg proteins earned top scores in protein quality metrics, very good. But of course, some people concerned about the yogurt, the yolk in the middle, maybe worry about the cholesterol, but actually it's not a big issue. Okay, that's three groups of animal source protein. Emerging protein, alternative protein source, we have fungal proteins from fungi, the two major groups, mushrooms and yeast protein. This is the yeast protein powder. Insect protein, we have all kinds of insects, crickets like this, silkworms, mealworms, locust, those are insect protein. Algae proteins, these are algae proteins like a powder. Recently, we have laboratory cultured meat. They not from animal, but from animal tissues. Also have some other plant proteins like quinoa. This is not very popular. So here you can see I have three italic proteins, italic words. So they are called single cell proteins. I mention this because we probably heard about single protein sometimes. So because those protein not come from like the plant or animal organism, they come from a single cell. It is very low animals. Those from muscle cells. Very not very well studied. So in the paper, we don't have nutrient profiles for them. So, but for individual protein, we need to do further study before use it. Now let's move to the last part of my presentation: balanced diet with complete complementary proteins. We know no single protein food perfectly meets the human amino acid and nitrogen requirement. However, one protein can complement the others. So now the National Human Dietary Committee proposed this guideline: eat healthy your way. It emphasized the dietary intake of more plant-based protein. So I would not say it's wrong, but I have a concern because if you don't understand, you eat only plant-only diet, you may run into some problems. If you increase the protein intake, here we talk about the plant-only protein intake, can cause nutrient or especially amino acid imbalance. When amino acid is imbalanced, you can cause metabolic burden to the body because the excess amino acid which cannot be used must be get rid of body because the free amino acid will not stay long in the body, so can cause a burden to gut health. The microorganism can use it. Liver, kidney need to get rid of the extra amino acid, so causes burden, metabolic burden to organs. Pure vegan diet risk in the deficiency in vitamin B12, iron, so you cannot get vitamin B12 from plant. Iron in plant not good, calcium content in plant not high, so are those. It's like this. You cannot. This is good in fish, but you cannot get from a plant. Some common plant proteins. There are also some anti-nutritional compounds that can hinder the GI absorption of affect the GI tract, digestive tract absorption of other dietary nutrients. So it's a challenge with plant-only diets. Those are based on scientific literature. So here is the complementary protein strategy means you should combine different protein food that have a complementary amino acid profile. For example, when you eat cereals, you should eat with legumes. Cereal is low in lysine, but the legume is high in lysine. Cereal is high in this is low in methionine, but the cereal is high in methionine. So if you combine them together, then will give you much better amino acid profile. Additional options for this strategy, you can mix nuts, seeds, cereals, and or plant protein isolates, pure protein isolate, including single amino acid, the synthetic amino acid, if put into your diet. Or you can include for vegan, you can include some animal products or alternative protein source we just mentioned, like insects. The takeaway from these 6 sections, a well-balanced plant-based diet can meet amino acid requirement, if the complementary protein strategy is adopted and the other nutrient gap, we know the plant misses some nutrients, the nutrient gap are filled. Okay, we need to remember that. Some amino acid and nutrient deficiency can be mitigated through food processing, like soaking, fermenting, heating, fortified foods, or dietary supplements. But you understand what is missing in your diet, then you know which supplement you should use. Again, we need to understand the protein food. It's best to eat complementary protein within one meal, but it's throughout the day is also effective. Okay. With that, I finished my 6 sections. Now I want let Dr. Sam El-Kadi to present the first. Please. Okay, thank you guys. In a hurry. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samer El-Kadi, Associate Professor at the School of Animal Sciences at Virginia Tech. I will be talking today about 2 sections of the paper. The first one is global protein demand, where it's abundant and scarce, and the other one is the environmental impact of protein production. So to start with, when we look at the global protein demand, we want to estimate first protein consumption. The best global estimates are primarily taken from the FAO food balance sheets. So these are the most comprehensive tools available to us, but they estimate supply, not true intake. They capture production, import, and losses, but they do not reflect differences within a country. In other words, they could not determine informal food sources like hunting and fishing, regional and seasonal disparities. So really, they cannot capture the actual consumption behavior, but they may overestimate urban and underestimate rural consumption. But despite these caveats, the numbers here that we're presenting are availability, not what people truly eat. But this is still is the best global data set to compare countries and track trends. So the current global protein supply currently stands at about 85 grams per capita per day, and this is considered as an improvement from the late 80s, which was 70 grams per capita per day. However, as you might see from this map, there's a pretty wide range of global supplies, ranging from 29 grams per capita per day in the Democratic Republic of Congo to about 142 grams per capita per day in Iceland. The highest are Argentina, North America, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Russia. And the lowest are Central Africa, parts of South America, and South and Southeast Asia. Now, when it comes to the sources of these proteins in the global food supply, plant sources represent 60% of the total supply. And evidently, from the map, also, you can see that it varies quite a bit from 26 to 74 grams per capita per day, with a mean of about 51 grams per capita per day. Animal sources represent the balance, which is 40%. And this is where you see an even higher disparity between 3 and 108 grams per capita per day, with a mean of about 34 grams per capita per day. The high plant share is in Africa, South and Southeast Asia, between 51 and 89%. And the high animal share is in North America, Australia, and Western Europe, between 29 and 44% of the protein consumed. Now, what are the main plant and animal sources? I'm presenting here on this slide only the cereals, just because of space and lack of time. But cereals have a mean of 38%, and it can vary between 12 and 72% of the total protein intake. Pulses are at 5% mean, and they can vary between 0 and 42%. Oil crops, 4%, range 0 to 30%, and starchy roots, mean of 3%, range of 0 to 38%. And this is presented in figure 3 of the paper. So as you can see, the cereals remain the most important global protein or source of protein in human food. When it comes to animal protein sources, meat, presented here on the map, represents a range between 2 and 45%, with a mean of 17%. Milk, 0 to 38%, with a mean of 11%. Fish and seafood, between 0 and 34%, with a mean of 7%. And eggs, mean of 4%, and a range of 0 to 8%. And in all of these, I'm presenting only the 4 most important plant and animal protein sources. And a point here to make is that countries with the higher total protein also have higher animal protein share. There has been some changes from the late 80s to 2020. For example, an increase in the amount and the quality of the protein. As an example, China total protein intake went from 65 grams per capita per day to 107 grams per capita per day, with animal share going from below 19% to above 39%. In Turkey, the protein intake went from 85 to 113 grams per capita per day. India from 50 to 64 grams per capita per day. And Mongolia had a change both in quantity and quality, where 50 to 59% of the protein from the late 80s to 71% as animal protein sources in 2020. But it remained persistently low in West Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, where the animal share is only 18 to 27%. And the main driver in these changes from the late 80s to 2020 is the rising income and social mobility leading to higher animal protein consumption. Now, the global supply versus human needs, if we look at the current recommended dietary allowance, it's about 0.85 grams per kilogram per day. For a 70 kilogram adult, that would be about 60 grams of intake needed per day. So the average supply at 85 grams per capita per day is above the current recommended dietary allowance. However, as you can see in this map, there is a huge unequal distribution and protein malnutrition in many parts of the world, representing almost 48% of the world population not reaching the current recommended dietary allowance. Now, there has been also some improvements when it comes to trade and self-sufficiency. In the 1980s, only 12% of the global food output was traded internationally. In 2010, about 23% was traded, but many African nations remain food insecure. So even if the global supplies of proteins would increase in the future, there are no guarantees of equitable distribution, so the dependence on local production persists. And any disruptions because of wars or pandemics would further expose trade vulnerabilities. Now, what are the future protein demands? To look at future protein demands, we have to keep in mind three main factors. One being population growth, income growth, and dietary change. I'm going to present here four scenarios, but as you would see that because things might change concurrently, it's really hard to reach a concrete way to think about that. For the scenario one, this is the simplest model where we would see a growth that is proportional to the population. So the United Nations projects about 9.5 billion people would be living by 2050. Most of this growth would happen in Africa. So the global demand is expected to increase by about 32% from current numbers if population grows with the current intake patterns, i.e., no change in the amount that humans are eating. The second projection scenario, it's slightly more difficult to predict, and that would be because of rising income that shifts the preference from plant to animal proteins. And this scenario is grounded from historical patterns where the wage increase in Europe in the early 1900s pushed the population to move from animal proteins to replace plant proteins in their diets. A third scenario, that is, if dietary recommendations and requirements are changing, with newer evidence would indicate that we need more protein per day to maintain muscle or for weight management or to prevent sarcopenia or for late gestation and lactation in women. If these changes are adopted globally, there will be a substantial increase in required supply. The fourth scenario is that cultural and ethical considerations might shift the preference towards proteins in terms of amounts and quality. For example, protein choices are shaped by culture, economic, and sustainability. So the ethical and environmental concerns of individuals could drive the interest in alternative protein sources in the diet. So to summarize this section, the global protein supply is improving, but it's unevenly distributed. Plant proteins dominate, especially in low-income regions. Animal proteins dominate in affluent ones. And the future demand is shaped by several factors: population, income, and health recommendations. So the challenge for the future would be to meet growing demands, but also equitably and sustainably. The second part of the that I'm going to cover is the environmental impact of protein production. So we're going to explore how protein production, both plant and animal, affect the environment through inefficiencies, nutrient losses, and pollution, and to discuss some strategies for sustainable improvement. No protein system is fully efficient. Losses happen along the production chain, from soil to sewer. Every stage leaks nitrogen. Crops lose fertilizer. Animals excrete unused proteins, and humans waste edible food. Even with good management, nitrogen compounds can escape into the air and water, driving pollution. For decades, we added a cushion of extra protein to avoid deficiencies, but this small margin scales up to massive nitrogen losses. Overfeeding doesn't just harm the environment, it stresses the animal and undermines efficiency. And of course, by undermining efficiency, it would reduce profitability. Now, precision tools can define safety margins in a more scientific manner, balancing productivity and environmental protection. Solutions can range from feed formulation software to agroforestry, thus combining technology and ecology to reach these goals. Agriculture's challenge is the diffuse nature of the pollution. So it's a non-point pollution. Unlike a pipe, you cannot just plug a pasture. Once airborne, nitrogen travels, eventually raining down either by dry deposition or wet deposition into ecosystems where it was not needed in the first place. And these nutrient runoffs from fertilizers or manure can feed algae, not crops, choking aquatic life and drinking water sources, creating ecological imbalances. Nitrogen losses also mean greenhouse gases. But despite that, the US cattle contribute less than 3% of total emissions of greenhouse gases. Land clearing is potentially a problem for protein production, and this drives biodiversity loss, but intensification with good management can indeed reverse that. Every kilogram of protein carries a fossil fuel footprint, and it doesn't matter from which source, whether plant or animal, from field machinery to refrigeration and so on. So even in the best case system, we retain only about half to three quarters of the nitrogen along the chain. This figure really summarizes the how efficiently nitrogen moves through the food system from non-protein and protein sources to the food humans eat. So on the left, right here, you would see plants and cultured plant proteins, which have moderate efficiency but often suffer losses during cultivation and processing. In the middle, ruminants stand out because they can use non-protein nitrogen, such as urea, and convert it to edible protein like beef and milk. Sometimes non-ruminants, some things, or these are things that non-ruminants cannot do. However, they still lose part of that nitrogen as waste to the environment. Now, non-ruminant species, such as pigs and poultry, would rely on true protein sources. And though their conversion efficiency can be high and sometimes may be better than that of ruminants, they compete more directly with human edible protein sources. And lastly, humans absorb and metabolize most animal proteins quite efficiently at about 95%, but every stage leaves behind byproduct and nitrogen waste shown on all of these red arrows returning to the environment. This illustrates that sustainability isn't just about choosing one source over another. It's about optimizing nitrogen use efficiency at every stage, recycling products, and therefore reducing environmental losses. Plant proteins look greener until we adjust for their digestibility and amino acid balance, as mentioned by Dr. Liao. Future proteins may crawl or swim or grow in vats, but they must prove sustainable when scaled up. So the real progress lies in integration, connecting biology, management, and policy for circular nutrient use. Sustainability isn't just about eliminating livestock or glorifying plants, it's about closing the nitrogen loop across all systems. With that, I would want to have a couple of remarks that hopefully summarizes everything we've talked about so far. First of all, proteins are eaten because of their amino acid content. So the quality and digestibility matter as much as quantity. No single food source is perfect. Combining plant, animal, and emerging proteins would support a balanced amino acid nutrition. The global supply is uneven. Many regions still face low intake or low quality protein despite rising global supplies. As demand will continue to grow for whatever reason, be it population, income increase, or possible changes to recommended dietary allowance. But at the end of the day, sustainability is essential. So, improving efficiency, reducing losses, and diversifying protein sources would lower the environmental impact of protein production. With that, we can go now to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for that nice presentation. I think we have a few questions from our audience. So Stefan asks, what effects do digestion inhibitors in plant proteins play in nutrition?
So maybe I should answer.
Sure.
So in plant, is a question I'm not what effects do digestion inhibitor? Yeah, digestion inhibitor is like some anti-nutritional facts. They inhibit the enzymes. When in the digest system you have a protease, protein digest enzyme. This inhibitor will block it, so the enzyme cannot digest those plant proteins. So even animal protein can be inhibited if you get anti-nutritional factor from the plant source. Did I answer the question?
I think so, unless there's anything else to add.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a question now from Richard. If protein requirements increase, what happens to global demand projections and food security in already protein scarce regions?
That's a very good question. And as I mentioned, there are several different scenarios that could be possible. If the protein requirements increase, it's very unlikely that uh, places where protein is already scarce that they will be able to catch up. Um, it, I would see even more countries falling behind rather than having improvements in terms of protein availability. So currently, by estimates, give or take, 48 or 49% of the world population is below the current recommended dietary allowance. So having uh, protein requirements increase, that would mean more of the world population, more of the global population would be below the current or the future recommended dietary allowance. And it's very unlikely that the developing countries would be able to catch up fast enough with that.
We have another one from Sean. How could companies reformulate plant-based products based on what you found about amino acid gaps?
Yeah, I can answer these questions. So, you know, human, I'm working in animal science area. Actually, pig, get a better diet. We have PhD nutritionist work for them. For human, we don't. You are on your own. So, but company, you need first you need to know the different human, different life stage require different amount of different amino acids. But this value can be found from a database, from the scientific literature, from the federal USDA database, or even United Nations database. So you know what is human requirement, then you know the the plant food amino acid profile. So you just use a complementary strategy to put them together, then you can calculate, balance, we call it formulation, balance the amino acid profile to match human requirement. Then you can commercialize. You said, okay, this diet has this amino acid profile, match human, whichever human you are talking about, their need, like pregnant women. You need, you're not just the random plant protein. So you need to advertise. You say this mix, this formulated protein source match your need. So then I think we should, you know, anyway, to fill the gap.
Very good. We have a question from Stefan. Some synthetic animal protein companies argue that they are more sustainable than the animal-based foods they intend to replace. Can you guys comment on that?
At least I would give my opinion about that. Studies about the environmental impact of any protein source should be done, including the emerging proteins being, for example, the synthetic amino acid or synthetic proteins that are being produced. I'm not sure if there's like any studies, at least not to my knowledge, that evaluates how much energy, how much fossil fuels, how much inputs are needed, and what is the environmental impact of those new animal proteins that are produced uh, in a vat, basically. So it's really hard to compare something that we already know because it's been around, like the conventional animal production. We know their environmental impact, but because we don't know the new animal proteins that are produced, it's, I think, um, unfair to make that comparison right now.
All right. We have a question from Brian. What are the main barriers preventing wider adoption of precision diet formulation for livestock? Is it cost, complexity, farmer knowledge, or something else?
This is about feed animals,
Yeah,
about feeding animals, right?
yeah. Uh,
Maybe, okay, Sam, you can answer.
I will try as much as possible. In part, it's, I think, a combination of all of the above. The cost it is expensive, it is complex, and farmer knowledge. I mean, they can catch up with proper information handed to them. But the cost and complexity of it, so you have to be a nutritionist, you have to have the proper equipment. Yes, the cost is pretty high if you want to use, for example, RF tags or something of that nature. So while the know-how in the lab experimentally is easy to do, implementing it over like large herds becomes very expensive. Even for large companies, they may have a problem. I believe to get to it because of costs so far.
Yeah, I want to add to that.
Sure.
So I think the knowledge is there. So when nutrition form their diet, you need to balance the cost and availability of the feed ingredients, availability, complexity, and cost. So you need to balance that. So if it's good but too expensive, you will lose money, right? So
All right, Jennifer asks us, cultured meat and insect farming are positioned as alternatives. Where do they actually stand in terms of nutritional completeness and scalability right now?
I think the public acceptability and still, the alternative protein source, I think, are going up, and I believe it will continue going up, especially for some underdeveloping countries, low-income countries, because you know, but we produce protein for consumer. Um, some Many consumer want to eat a steak or pork. If you give them insects, they probably don't like to eat. So the consumer acceptance is the issue we need to address in order to scale up the alternative protein, including cultured meat. Some people say I don't eat cultured meat. It's not meat. The could say it's not meat. So from a nutrition standpoint, we need to understand the amino acid profile in whichever protein is, and also understand is there any anti-nutritional factors. Okay, if we understand both, then there are no problem for use them.
Very good. Mariah asks, what role do GMOs play in increasing global protein supply in the face of increasing demand?
That's a fairly tough one to answer simply because, let's say, if you have a fish like salmon, I think with IGF-1 that they made as GMO, yeah, it grows more, but it uses more resources. So while eventually the amount of protein that we're producing might meet the goals or meet the demand of people, that means also that we have to put in more inputs. So there's a balance that we have to strike in terms of amounts produced and the efficiency at which we're producing. So if we continue at the same efficiency, I don't think that that would take us far. So being able to work on efficiency at the same time as producing more of the proteins would be probably the way to go and to meet it in an environmentally responsible way.
Also, the consumer acceptance. Some consumer don't want to buy GMO food. You know that's an issue.
Absolutely. Sarah asks, can you comment on the value of yolk and albumin effects on the body nutrition?
Albumin is perfect, is good, very good. Yolk has some also good. They have not only protein but also some lipids is also good. But just public in the past we have a concern about the cholesterol in yolk. But now in probably last decade, new studies show the human cholesterol level is not directly associated with yolk cholesterol. So right now, the I think the new recommendation is that you can eat as many eggs as you want. You don't need to worry about the cholesterol. But again, as an individual have some difference. When you consume more eggs, you need to do like a physical exam to check your blood with your doctor because some people may be okay, but you may not be okay. So in general, it's okay. We don't need to worry too much about the effect on human.
All right. Well, thank you guys very, very much. And thank you to everybody who submitted questions. I think we're going to wrap it up and we're going to hear a few words from Chris again.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Indeed. Thanks to both of our presenters today. I also appreciate the work that Kaylee did leading the Q&A. And lastly, I appreciate everybody coming today who's in the audience and asking fantastic questions. Do note a few things. We do have a landing page for this paper now, but the full paper has not yet been released. That release is indeed coming. You will be notified. You will be first to know, by the way, when the paper comes out. So look for that. Look for that email. It's coming your way. Lastly, I'm going to conclude. If you want to learn more about CAST, the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology, please scan that large QR code on your screen at this time. And if you want to connect with me, you can see my contact information on the right, and also another QR code to my LinkedIn profile. We'd be happy to chat with you more. Please follow CAST. We'll have more papers coming out in the future. With that, I want to thank everyone for attending today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.